10 changes, a power bomb squad bench. To be able to make 10 changes when you go to Santiago to play against Los Pumas, Ricky. I mean, incredible. And then to have a guy on the bench who's about to play his 127th test match for South Africa equals the majestic Victor Matfield. To start with Samuel Murata's captain, Ron Nokia in his first season, and to know your insurance policy is the most celebrated lock that's probably ever played for South Africa. One of the greatest that's ever played the professional game.
I love the way you are rolling your R's. Ruan Norkia. I like that.
I do like that.
Yeah. Eben Etzebeth, mate. And he's playing his 127th test. And it's not like we're wheeling him into the team in a wheelchair. The Oak is still in prime condition. Looks like he could go for at least another 25. What an incredible, incredible career and what an incredible achievement.
Well, if we look at his statistics, 127 tests, 2 non-international games for the Springboks, that's 129. 151 matches for his clubs. He has played the most, though, for the Stormers and Western Province. 61 for the Stormers, 7 for Western Province. Toulon, 40. Sharkies, 22. Even went to Japan and played a couple of games there. Okay? What I love about this player is this perception that he doesn't play for his club. He only plays for the Boks. He plays 23 matches a year. He plays 11 for the Springboks out of a potential 14. And he plays 12 for his club. Now, Victor Matfield, whose record he will equal in Santiago and break in Nelspruit, played on average 26 matches through a 17-year career. Bakkies Botha played on average 20 matches through a celebrated career. They were averaging 9 to 10 tests a year. So we also know that Bakkies, when he went to Toulon, didn't play test rugby for the best part of 3 years. And Victor also retired for a couple of years before he came back. But let's kill off this myth that he doesn't play club rugby. He plays. He plays the big games, though, and he plays them particularly well. The only thing that's changed with Eben Etzebeth is that in his prime, he was playing 76 minutes on average a game. Post-COVID, and as the game's evolved, he plays 55 minutes on average a game because of the use of the bomb squad, the use of the bench, coming off the bench like on Saturday. But what an incredible, incredible athlete. What an incredible servant. And the only thing I don't understand about Eben is how do you go to Hoërskool Tygerberg and play for Aitjies?
Well, that may actually explain why, because I was on the beat, obviously, the Stormers beat when Eben came through. And that whole sort of mystique of him being silent but violent was created, I think, by the Stormers because they just refused to give the Cape media access to the guy. The only time we'd speak to him was when he was with the Springboks. And so, I don't know, maybe they were sort of transitioning him from the Tygerberg guy to someone who could speak a bit of English. I don't know what the story was, but we didn't see him. And the next thing you know, he's this phenom on the test arena.
And he comes from an incredibly celebrated sporting rugby family, the Etzebeths, Goodwood, Cape Town. You don't want to mess with those guys, mate. You're going to take a beating. I had the pleasure as a kid of playing with Cliffy Etzebeth. I played for Western Province when I was in the police force doing my national service.
No.
Yep.
You played in the same team as him?
Yep. And,
no.
Yeah, so it goes back a long time. And I can tell you one thing now. You wanted to always be aligned with the Etzebeths, okay? You never want to be on the other side of the Etzebeths. I mean, what incredible
Carnage.
family. No, you don't want to go into a pub with them either, okay? You want to go into the pub, but you want to be with them.
Yeah.
Not on the other side, okay?
Yeah.
And but it's such a celebrated family in the Western Cape, so synonymous with Western Province rugby. But Eben, wow, just an incredible ambassador for the game. The only thing I think that I would probably critique him for now is that he's playing for the Sharks, not for the Stormers. But deep down in his soul and his heart, he's a Lanneban man. He's a Northern Suburbs Oak. And,
you know he's going to end up in Cape Town. His career is going to end up in Cape Town.
Of course he's going to end up in Cape Town. But Eben Etzebeth, 127 test matches. And I go back to when he was first picked for the Springboks in 2012. Heineke Meyer picked him. He picked this 20-year-old to play against England. They won the first test 22-17. And Heineke Meyer said that this guy will go on to play a lot of tests, 100-plus tests for South Africa, and that he had the potential to be the best lock that he will ever coach that he's ever seen. And at that stage, I thought, Heineke, that's a big
Jeez,
call to make
bold.
because you've just coached Bucky's Buerta and Victor Matfield.
Jeez.
There is not a better lock pairing in the professional era that I've ever seen as a combination.
Totally.
And you're telling me that this kid has the potential to be better if he stays injury free. Now, we fast forward to 2024, and I sent a little message, a little WhatsApp to Heineke last night, and I said, hey, on the Keo Zels show, we're going to do a little bit of an ode to Eben and this incredible achievement of him to equal Victor Matfield's record. Please tell us what differentiates Eben from the rest and what makes him such a great player. And this is what Heineke Meyer had to say.
When I was recruiting or speaking to young players, I told them that I was looking for players that reminds me of a piece of charcoal or coal. Charcoal or coal is quite cheap. You can find it everywhere. But if you put it under pressure for thousands and thousands of years, it becomes a diamond. It shines like a diamond. And that's the type of player you're looking for. You want the guys that performs in the big games. You want the guys when the pressure is on, they shine like diamonds. And for me, there's no better example than Eben Etzebeth. The first time I saw Eben, he was playing Craven Week, and he really impressed me. And then I also saw him playing in the Varsity Cup final against Tikkies, which I helped to coach. And again, in that final, he shined like a diamond. He was a youngster, but he kept us busy. He was an enforcer and was really superb. And I knew that this guy would go all the way and play for South Africa and play a lot of test matches for South Africa. At the highest level, obviously you have to have skill and you have to be mentally tough. But it's also very important that you don't have any weaknesses. Because when you have weaknesses, the opposition work you out and they exploit that, and then you struggle with your confidence and you don't play a lot of test matches. Eben, believe it or not, is not a guy with any weaknesses. For me, he reminds me of a combination of three of the best locks that ever played the game. Three of the best locks that I was really blessed to coach. And it's a combination of these three guys, which is actually scary. First of all, he reminds me of Bucky's, which was an enforcer. He was very, very physical, mentally tough. He would keep busy the other packs while the other guys were playing rugby. He was such an unbelievable, brutal force. And the thing that people don't realize as well is what good a scrummager Eben is. People don't look at the scrums, but if he's not there, the scrums is not the same, doesn't operate the same. And it takes a special player to be able to scrum, then run, then jump, then get around the park, and then defend well as well. So he's got that mental toughness of a Bucky's Buerta. He will never, ever, ever go a step backwards. I remember we played against Australia and he was still a youngster. And there was an incident where he was involved and the whole Australian pack swarmed him and he didn't take a step back. Then I realized how good this kid can be, how physical he is, how mentally tough he is. And so he's an enforcer, he's a Bucky's Buerta at his best. He also reminds me of Victor. Although he's big, he's also so athletic. He's quite light on his feet and brilliant in the lineouts. He moves quick. Also very, very good contester of the ball, and obviously his balls are very safe. But the thing that I've been proud of is also his mental rugby IQ that's developed. He's become a great leader. That's why I've been winning trophies, because if the pressure is on, I've seen him taking the lead. I've seen him taking the lead in for the box, and I'm very proud of that. The other guy that reminds me of is one of the best athletic players I've ever coached, and that's Daniel Rousseau. So he's got that ball-carrying abilities. He's got that skill of a Daniel Rousseau, very good at kickoffs, and especially carrying the ball. You don't usually get that in such a big player, and he's really improved the way he carries the ball, and he beats opponents and scores some great tries. But for me, the thing that impresses me most about Eben is the off-field. You know, although he's a superstar now, although he's recognized by everybody in the world, he's one of the best players in the world, he's still the humble kid that he was at 20 years old. We're still in touch and keep contact, and it's unbelievable to see how humble he is, you know, how he speaks to the supporters, how he goes out there and take pictures and autographs, and for me that's special. So he's a champion, not just on the field, but also off the field. I always knew Eben can play 100 test matches. We had a lot of talks, and I said to him his goal should be to play 100 test matches. But the way he played and the way his physicality, and he put his body on the line for his country every year, week in and week out, I wasn't sure if he will reach 100, because for him, there's no holding back, and he put his body on the line for his country. But I'm so proud of him that he's played 100 test matches, and now breaking another grade that I've coached, Victor Matfield's record is unbelievable. So proud of him, so proud of the play he became, and more proud of the man he became. So I think he's good enough to play 150 test matches. So I just hope that he will be blessed, and pray that he will be blessed and go on to lead his country and make his country proud. So it's been an honor coaching him, and he will go down as one of the best players that's ever played the game. He's already one of the best, but he's good enough to be the best player that ever played the game, and I just want to wish him luck, and so proud, and such a big honor to have coached him.
Wow, incredible words from Heineke.
I mean, who better? Who better to talk about the guy than the guy who gave him his debut? And like you say, he knows locks. He kind of had exposure to the best lock pairing, I would say, in the professional era. Two guys who won him Super Rugby titles. Just an incredible reflection on Eben's career, and some great insights on the man behind the player.
But now the Bok coach who picked him, who put him on his path to 127 tests, they say behind every successful man is a woman. Behind every successful player are advisors and agents and guides. And in this country, Hilton Houghton, Kendra Houghton, and Paul van der Berg are just probably the best up there in terms of agents. They started Sia's career. Hilton and Kendra put Sia up in the house with Skara. They've been with Eben since he was 18. And they've always spoken about his loyalty to agents, their loyalty to him. I asked Kendra to send me a voice note. She said, I'm not one for voice notes. I said, send me a video. I'm not one for video. But she just spoke about her journey with Eben, the early days when he was 18 and 19. He had his list on his bedroom door, a to-do list for life. He has achieved everything on that list and then some. Not only was that rare for such a young man, but it's a testament to his determination, self-belief, and professionalism. He has stayed incredibly humble every step of the way. A big family man with a big heart. I can't wait to celebrate with Eben in Nelspruit and the next chapter. I hate voice notes, Keo. Lovely pictures of Hiltz and Eben, of Paul, Kendra, Eben, and Hiltz, and obviously of Paul and Eben. Paul coming in, congratulations on breaking the record and becoming the most capped Springbok of all time. Such an incredible achievement. It's truly inspiring to witness all you've accomplished. You and your family have always welcomed us with open arms. It's a joy to have been part of you as the Union family. What I admire most about you is you set your goals. You just don't talk about them. That's been a consistent with Eben, that when you speak to people, they say, this guy is so goal-orientated. Wishing you continued success, many more milestones from Paul, who's been there since day one. And then I get a message from Kendra. Hiltz will send his message now. Hiltz, you don't have to send a message, mate. You've always just been there. You've been there. And for those who don't know, Hilton Houghton, 1992 Bishops, Herschel Gibbs at 10. Hilton Houghton at 12, Robbie Fleck at 13, Selbourne Boone at lock. One of the great Bishops teams, 1992, Hilton Houghton. Mate, I love you. What a wonderful, wonderful man. What a wonderful family, the Houghtons. And what they did for Sia in his early days has never been replicated or even acknowledged. But what they've done for Eben and the joy that they've given him and the support. And in a culture where agents and players are falling out all the time, to have a guy at 18 coming to a fold and still be with the same people who advised him says everything about the qualities of Eben Etzebeth as a human being and the Houghton family as human beings. And it makes me all very emotional, mate.
I think consistency is probably a hallmark of Eben's career. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is his physicality. But the reality is that this guy's got to this milestone because regardless of who's the coach, regardless of who's in front of him and behind him, Eben is there and Eben delivers what Eben delivers. Like the consistency in that guy's play. There are no games that come to mind where you think Eben had a shocker. Like
when he plays a 7 out of 10, we think he's had a bad game.
Exactly. That's exactly
because he's an 8, 9 out of 10 player all the time. And I mean, Heineke spoke about his growth as a leader. One of the big voices in South African rugby, one of the great characters in South African rugby. And yesterday I was just going through a few highlights and I went to the province team of the 80s. The guy at number 8, Nick Mallett. There was a clip I sent him between 4 and 6 minutes. Mallet's on fire. We forget what an incredible rugby player he was.
Yeah.
What a wonderful coach he is. What a great advisor he is. And what a great voice he is. I would only watch SuperSport at halftime to listen to his analysis, pre-game, post-game, till it became so sanitized on that channel. But last night I also reached out to Nick Mallet, and I said to him, what differentiates Eben Etzebeth from the rest? And this is what he had to say.
Hi, Mark. Just got back to my room after giving a talk in just outside, in Pretoria actually, with Victor and Brady. Really good fun, and got your message. Yeah, good question. What makes Eben such a great rugby player? Well, I think a combination of Bucky's and Victor would define him quite nicely. He's got the physicality of Bucky's Botha and the athleticism of a Victor Matfield. His ability, to get around the field. He's as fast as any loose forward, if not a backline player. His ability in the lineouts to put pressure on the opposition throws. His physicality at the breakdown, his ball carries. And then clearly his longevity, obviously, with the box. He's had an ability to stay uninjured for the box and to play and play and play for them over a wonderfully successful period in the Springbok history. One must remember that he started out perhaps quite early, but there were some difficult times. I think in 2017 in particular, going through a couple of big defeats, losing to Ireland, and then I think what really has done a wonderful. Has been wonderful for this group of players. In fact, has been the arrival, obviously, of Rassie and Jacques Nienaber, and the way they've handled their players over this year. They've given opportunities to play in winning teams, and providing you perform, you get selected again. So Eben has really relished his friendship with Sia, the fact that he's a leader, the fact that he's captained the team, the fact that Rassie has full confidence in him, and he's just played and played and played, and has done an absolutely immense job for South Africa over the last 6-7 years. So matching Victor's record is incredible. Remember that Victor was was in a class of his own, playing for the Bulls, winning with the Bulls and winning one World Cup, beating the British and Irish Lions, and here, blow me down, there's a guy going past his record. One wouldn't have said it was possible, but that's what records are there for, to be broken. Well done, Eben. Absolutely outstanding effort.
I think what Nick said at the end there, whoever thought anyone could go past Victor Matfield? And Victor Matfield said, if anyone's going to break his record, it's Eben Etzebeth. And you guys at SA Rugby, you're always at the forefront. Your cover says it all.
Right.
And that was put to bed a month ago, that cover. It's going to be on the shelves, I think the day after, or the Monday after the nail spray test. It's Easter. Easter is the cover, and it's the man who unlocked Victor's record. It had to be a very special player to go past Victor Matfield.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it earlier in terms of the number of minutes that Eben averages in the test arena. You have to give some credit to Rusty Erasmus there, because Eben's career, as much as he was consistent, during the Tutti era, the Boks were going nowhere slowly. Rusty arrives, breathes life back into that guy's career, probably extends it like he has for a couple of other players by the introduction of the bomb squad. And you're now at a point where a guy is going to set the record for being the most capped, eventually, in Nelspruit, the most capped Bok of all time. And he's still in the physical condition to come off the bench and make a physical impact in games. It's just a phenomenal achievement, how they've got to this point. Incredible.
And I also look at the impact he did with the Sharks.
Jeez.
And people say, URC, they were at the tail end, they were a disaster there. He came back from injury. He led them to the Challenge Cup final. He still says it's one of his biggest club games he's played. And I think not so much the actual trophy, it's what he did for that team that week. And the build up to those two playoff games, and they won it. And just the way he revels in leadership.
Totally.
And it's incredible to see that growth. And Heineke spoke about it, Nick's spoken about it. To see a young player come through and then to start growing and to start owning things. And, and Nick mentioned it, his relationship with Sia, his friendship with Sia, that spans like more than a decade. It's so authentic as well, how they dig each other, how they get on. I saw a clip from him the other day welcoming Sia back to the Sharks. As I said, the only thing was you weren't welcoming him back to the Stormers, but to the Sharks. We're very blessed at this time to have players of this quality. I mean, I worked in an era with the Springboks where I worked with Buckingsburg and Victor Matfield. My whole career I wrote about them. And as a lock pairing, there is just none better in the game that's ever played it. And there's been some great lock pairings. You think about Retallick and Whitelock. You think about Martin Johnson, John Eales, but
Scott Barrett and Sam Darry.
Yeah, something like that. But those guys, and then to get a guy who's a combination, and as Heineke said, and then you add in Donnie Rousseau, the most celebrated rugby player, along with Brad Thorne and Buckies. I think they won everything in the world, okay? Totally. We are so privileged to be experiencing Eben at the moment, to be watching his career and seeing it unfold. And what I love about Rassie post the World Cup, he said, I don't know if Sia and Eben can go through to the next World Cup. That's going to be their challenge. I'm going to manage them, but they've got to show me the desire and the hunger. If you think he's averaging 11 tests a year, that's 33 test matches. He'll get to 150 plus. I think he'll get to 160. He plays 160th in the 2027 World Cup final in Australia, where we do the three-peat and we win.
Wow. And the boys will go with him to McDonald's because you get that senior citizen discount.
Completely. And you heard it first year, so in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, just kind of go back, fast forward, and put it out there.
Yeah, for me, Eben and that Shark season, I mean, what sticks out for me from his time at the Stormers was him bumping off Bismarck du Plessis. I think it was at Newlands, just freaking ran over. That was like a seminal moment, mate. The way he just blasted Busy off, one of my all-time favourites too. But that season at the Sharks, for me, has been his best club season because he literally not literally, metaphorically put that team on his back and dragged them all the way to that title. I think he was phenomenal. I think he's been incredible. And you spoke about his time with Sia, and I think that has also been really instrumental in this journey that this Bok team has been on, because Sia Kolisi has had a guy in the pack who everyone respects and follows his actions as a leader in the team, who has Sia's back 1,000%. You know, his 2IC is his biggest promoter, his biggest fan. And I think that tight relationship has definitely helped the culture of this Bok team evolve. And just sort of, I mean, you'd know better than me in the history of Bok rugby, the in-house politics and the provincialism and the this and the that. Having two guys that are rock solid back-to-back and who perform on the field like that, just an incredible asset to Bok rugby.
Well, I want to go back. Anyone that can go to Hoërskool Tegenberg and then go play for UCT has got a special quality. Yeah. I mean, those are two worlds that are colliding. Eben Etzebeth, he's on the bench, 127th test that he will play in Santiago. I like to say Santiago. Because my daughter watches Santiago on the Netflix. Oh. But 10 changes from the side that beat the All Blacks in the starting lineup. To be in a position to do that as Rassie, and you look at that team and it's a very, very good team. Surprised that Pollard and Reiner start and it's not Amani starting? Or do you think that's par for the course? You'll come on the last 20?
For me, it's less. So I love the team. I love the squad selection. As much as you always want the Boks to win every time they play, in a way, this match is a bit of a dead rubber because they can win the championship next week. Obviously, you'd like to do it, have a perfect record, be unbeaten, and be the title holders. So for me, it's less about the fact that Kobus and Handre are starting. The only one of a couple of things that interest me about the squad is that they've chosen to start their best tackling halfbacks with their best hooker. In the second half, when Jan-Hendrik Wessels comes on at hooker, you've got Jaden and Marnie at halfback. And so if things go a bit awry at the line out there with the set piece and things get a bit messy, I would rather have Kobus and Handre on to clean up any issues that may come from that. But I mean, other than that, and also Jan-Hendrik is a guy who's, twaifling between a couple of positions. So maybe start him and see how he goes and make decisions from there about how long he plays. We also don't have our third choice hooker, Cheslin Colby, in the team. So it's quite an interesting situation we're going to have when Jan-Hendrik comes on at hooker. So I'm happy with, I think it's a great selection. I love Kobus and Handre coming on to support a pack that maybe has less street cred than our A's and is in position, has been given a stage to kind of prove their worth.
But when you look, I mean, Salman Marat and Rassie puts a lot of faith in his leadership. I just hope he gets through the game, that there's no concussion issues. Ronak has really come through this Rugby Championship.
Big time.
He's been outstanding. I think he's one of the top kind of line-out kind of exponents in terms of winning his own ball. He's really reveled in that. But I think it also helps when you're looking over the shoulder and there's this giant Eben Etzebeth who's going to come on and kind of do the business. Doesn't matter where he plays. But they know how tough it is to go to Argentina. And when we've won in the last 8 times we played them, we won by an average of 15 points. But I also remember in going to Mendoza and getting a whipping. And that was on our way to going to New Zealand and actually beating the All Blacks 36-34. So an Argentinian side that has beaten the All Blacks in New Zealand, 67-27 against the Wallabies. And it doesn't matter how poor we think the Wallabies are. No one has put 67 points past them in their history. We put 61 past them in 1997 when Monty scored those 2 incredible tries.
Yeah.
Basically retired half that Australian side. But that was in Pretoria. But an incredible last 40 minutes, last 30 minutes. I mean, they were 23 down after 29 minutes, and they won 67-27. So they've beaten the All Blacks in New Zealand. They've put a record score past Australia. They are so deserving of being 2 on the table at the moment. I agree with you. Regardless of what happens on Saturday night, it's 11 o'clock kickoff. We will win in Nelspruit and we'll win the Rugby Championship. We actually want to go unbeaten in the Rugby Championship. We want to set records. This team has won 20 out of 23. It's got to be 21 out of 24 and 22 out of 25. That will make them the most successful Springbok team in the history of the professional era in terms of a winning streak. That includes a World Cup and a Rugby Championship. I mean, that is the double that you want. The year after you win if you're a Southern Hemisphere side, the year after you win the World Cup, you want to go 6 from 6 in the Rugby Championship. And do it in some fantastic style. And what he's done is he's changing his team by 8 or 9 every week, that starting team. But there's still 13 or 14 World Cup winners in that 23. That's in Santiago.
Absolutely. And I think that's the great thing about it, is that we are going to be getting answers to questions about relative newcomers to the team and what they bring and what their ceiling is and what their floor is. But at the same time, still be in with the good shout to make it 5 from 5 in the Rugby Championship. And we're getting, I think, the balance right there. I think Russie's selections and his player management model, you can't criticize it, has been great. On Argentina, what that team has shown is that they play for 80 minutes. The Wallabies went home at the start of the 4th quarter and got spanked by those guys. And when they beat the All Blacks, they overtook them in the 4th quarter as well and destroyed them there. So we're going to have to play for 80. That final quarter is going to be massive, and that's why that bench is going to be crucially important. And that's when Eben plays his part.
Well, I mean, the bench, you look at that pack, okay? Jan Hendrik. And it's great that they've picked him as hooker prop. Vincent Koch. Steenekamp. Eben. Kwacha. Elrich. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a pack of note to come on. And I'm also loving the fact that he's given Marco van Staden a start.
Absolutely.
Took Sia over there, so he didn't have to be anywhere near Racing. And I think having Sia in the mix always, he adds such inspiration to that squad, whether he's playing or not playing, whether he's carrying water. You think the water carriers are going to be Sia and Dwayne. That's not a bad set of water carriers. But I really do love the fact that he's been willing to kind of mold and integrate, as opposed to, like you said, a couple of years ago, was he setting Oaks up to basically get rid of them? He's now really creating succession plan, and for Jan Hendrik, he's like saying, I'm giving you a gap. There's not too many more tougher challenges than playing Argentina in Argentina if you're a young hooker / prop.
No.
And he's saying, I'm backing you, I'm going to put you on. And he's kind of done that consistently with the players. I'm glad that Fussie's back. The only one I thought Kane and Moody may get a run either at 13 or definitely on the win, because he looked a bit gun-shy in Cape Town. But Mapimsi's back, and Lukanya back in the mix with Jesse Creel. And just a shout out to Jesse Creel. I spoke to Heineke about him on WhatsApp. That kid, he epitomizes everything that is special about this current Springbok group, because he was patient. I remember the Sonny Ball Williams picture, 2015 World Cup, Sonny Ball Williams picking him up and saying, but for a pass, it could be me that you're picking up. And then the disappointment of 2019, getting injured, Lukanya coming on, having a sensational World Cup, being considered the best 13 in the world. Lukhanyo gets injured. Jesse Kriel comes in, has the most incredible 2023 World Cup, and just basically somehow they've accommodated 3 does going to 2. They finally given Damon Deolandi, who we believe is the best 12, giving him a rest. And Lukhanyo comes in at 12, where you've wanted to see him play with Jesse Kriel. But when you see the quality of players that they've put in there and you think of the 10 that they've left behind, well, there is no team in World Rugby at the moment that is as blessed with 30 test players. You know, he says, I want to get to 50. That is utopia. But 30 test players, that doesn't matter who you pick. That's not an A and B side. It's actually just a very good Springbok side.
Yeah, and there isn't a single guy in that team that you look at and you go, he's actually got nothing to play for this weekend. It's just, you know, we just plugging him in. This is his job. This is what he does. Every single guy, there's a story. KLA, Makazoli, everybody is playing for, there's something on the line for each and every one of these players. And I think to create that environment is how you get performance excellence. What I want to know from you is, Apaleli Fassi, if for whatever reason he has to go off, what happens at fullback?
What happens at fullback, mate, is that Jesse Kriel started his career at
Ooh!
fullback. People forget.
Really?
When he first came onto the scene, he was a fullback.
Muscle tick at the back, eh?
He's everywhere, man.
And then what happens to the back line? What? We shift out Lukhanyo and Andre goes to 12.
100 goes to 12, Lukhanyo to 13. Happy days, man.
Okay.
So,
solved,
man.
Case closed.
Rassi thinks about everything, okay? I did put a little shout out to Rassi. Give me a few words on Eben. Blue ticked it, didn't respond.
I think Monday nights are karaoke nights there at the Bokke, man. His voice was hoarse.
Santiago, I can't give you a thing now. Give me a Ricky, because it is Argentina.
What do we say?
Just say anything. I mean, it's Argentina.
Santiago, you don't just come to Santiago and push us around. That's what they say there. But they need to experience the Springbok experience in South America again. I think maybe they've forgotten a bit, you know. They beat the Wallabies and now they think everything is easy. But this weekend, we're going to show them the Eben Etzebeth experience. Buckle up. It's going to be fun times, okay?
Ask me about the cap, man.
Yeah, what is going on with this float cap? What's the story behind that, mate? Oh, I like that peak.
Mate, there's a bloke who owns this. His name is Matteo. He says he's a big fan of the show.
The company Float.
Float, yeah.
Okay,
And,
what is a clothing brand?
Yeah, it is a clothing brand. Ollie did a little bit of modeling for them because his mate Connor. Hello, Connor, and well done on your 90 days of not drinking. But then he went out and he did a big one on Sunday, and he kind of put 90 days into one day.
Julian!
Okay.
Connor stopped drinking.
So Connor will now not be drinking for another 90 days. But they did it, and as Ollie was leaving, he said, oh, Mateo said, hey, tell Keo Zels, like, I really dig the show. So thanks for that, mate. Drop a comment in there as well. You may get $1,000. Brandon Lotz from Pinelands, he's got $1,000. I'm trying to transfer that money to him. I just can't get it through.
Oh, is that his name? Is that McNuggets?
Yeah, he's got a McNuggets. He's got to come pick it up at the office or something like that. But gooi us a lekker comment and
Give us a chirp.
join us on the WhatsApp channel and you get $1,000, man, courtesy of eBets. Well, I hope Willie Delport and Ryan O'Connor give me that $1,000. No, we put it in and also go on like to eBets and kind of bet a bit so we can, on the affiliate program, we can make money from your losings.
Oh, wow.
Then we can give more than 1,000.
Wow.
We can give 5,000.
Argentina by 20, guys. Put your money on it.
Mate, Argentina by 23 at half time. Mox to come back and win it. But looking at this week, I mean, I hated it that we didn't have Test rugby last weekend. We had 2 incredible Curry Cup semi-finals.
Glorious.
In terms of the games, I mean, this isn't the Curry Cup of yesteryear. Let's not confuse it with... I'm still annoyed that they kind of banked the opening round of the URC because they've given the Curry Cup a status it shouldn't have by saying go play the Curry Cup final and then kind of put your matches out. But other pools, 15 on 12 and they can't beat the Sharks. Maybe they needed 15 on 10, okay? But just two wonderful games to watch. But yes, I was listening for the box this weekend. I was listening for the box and quite intrigued by the All Blacks as well because... Listen to Jeff Wilson saying he doesn't want to host a breakdown on a Sunday where he's talking about the All Blacks losing and not being able to win.
Welcome to being a rugby fan, Jeff.
Welcome to South Africa, circa 2017.
Yes. Imagine that. Those blokes are so used to winning, they don't know what to do when they lose.
But the Bledisloe Cup, that's all they've got to play for at the moment.
Mate, I hope they take it.
3rd and 4th place.
Imagine the Wallabies spring a surprise.
Look, the thing there is like, nothing puts it past the Wallabies actually beating them in Sydney, but they won't beat them in Wellington, which is a sellout. So then they draw it 1-1, and obviously New Zealand keeps it for the next for 24 years.
But it would be, I mean, that'd be a massive fillip for the Wallabies to actually beat the All Blacks at this point of their the season. I mean, that'd be huge.
But isn't it like kind of crazy in this country to just see the disarray that New Zealand is in? Because it reminds me of us in 2016, 2017. And I want to just emphasize this. We were 7th in the world in 2017. 7th. We had just been clapped by Italy. In Italy, okay? 2018, Rassie Erasmus played 14 test matches and won 7 of them. 50%. He won the World Cup in 2019. He won the British and Irish Lions Series in 2021. And he won the World Cup in 2023. So, New Zealand's going to drop more tests. They're going to definitely lose at least 2 or 3 at the end of their tour when they play Ireland, they play France, and they play England. But if Razor's still there next year, I think there's a gap that he will come good for them, okay? But they've never been in this position where they go into a game not knowing what to do. And as Sonny Bill Williams said, you've always got to look for clues where there's success. And South Africa is success.
Bingo. So, I mean, they hauled out the tracing paper after 2009, put it over the Springbok plan, and went, oh, these guys actually kick a lot and they have wingers that are good in the kicking game. Let's emulate that. Bingo. Corey Jane's in the mix. All Blacks are unstoppable. Best period in All Blacks history. Okay? They need to whip out the tracing paper again because we were at our worst when we weren't picking our players based overseas. Then we started picking our players based overseas. Now we won back-to-back World Cups. Maybe there's something in that for the All Blacks.
Well, Test rugby is about the best playing the best. Not the best in our country when half our best is somewhere else. And we learned the lesson, like, we couldn't rely on just local-based players. New Zealand can't rely on local-based players. And this thing of like, oh, they're all going to exodus. No, they're not going to. Because they're not good enough to exodus. But if you had a Richie Mwanga, you had a Brodie Retallick, an Aaron Smith, a Shannon Frizzell in that mix in Cape Town or Ellis Park, a very different All Black dynamic to what they've got at the moment. We keep on saying that their back five's a bit weak. You put Retallick in there next to Scott Barrett, and you put Frizzell, Satiri, and Ardie Savea. You've got a very different back five. It's like, wow, it's right up there with the best in the world.
Totally.
And this constant belief that you've got to play for the jersey, you've got to play for the black jersey at a third of the rate in New Zealand is absurd. And they're going to continue to lose ground.
Totally.
And it's going to take them to drop to 5 or 6 in the world for them to say eventually.
Well, that's the thing. They're behind Ireland because they refuse to pick the overseas-based players. Ireland are ahead of them because not only will they pick overseas-based players, they'll pick players from other countries. Like, they've literally got guys, James Lowe, Gibson Park, etc. Their success has been built on bringing in overseas-based players. They're not even Irish guys. We're just saying you can still pick Kiwis, mate. Just pick them from overseas.
And the beautiful thing is, Bundiaki, 57 test matches, been there for 11 years. He finally got his citizenship.
Finally, he's Irish.
And you know what he said?
Tests.
I love being here for now. So you know where he's going. Counties Manukau, mate.
That
the minute that
ticket's
test
already
career is
booked,
over,
mate.
he's off to Counties Manukau,
he's on
back
his
to the
way.
Waikato Chiefs defence coach
Bundiaki.
for the Chiefs. Looking at the landscape, mate, Curry Cup. What have you loved the most about the Curry Cup?
I've loved the Curry Cup, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again today and in the future. Rugby, when everybody's on the same level of ability, generally, Joe Public can't tell the difference. The quality of the game is fantastic. So it's been a bit of sort of defense optional in the Curry Cup, but it's been exciting. It's been thrilling. There's been a lot of youngsters that have come through, put up their hands, and it went down to the wire all the way until Butcher Chamberlain couldn't do it for the Bulls at the end there, former Sharks player.
Well, he was wearing his Sharks Speedo when he kicked.
Exactly, mate. He had a bit of North Beach sand in his ears as he drew that kick. But fantastic. I think it's been a great advert for the depth of rugby in South Africa. I'm a big fan of the Curry Cup. I think it needs to have its own slots. I think it definitely
But it's
has
not the
to
Curry
go.
Cup of old, and people need to understand that.
It doesn't need to be, though.
It just needs to be a great contest between strength-on-strength players.
Yeah.
Now, you've been accused in the last 2 weeks. I know you've been a bit offish. It's because you haven't... Actually, people want to know what's going on with Zels. Zels had a shoulder injury, a neck injury, a calf injury, no magnesium, no zinc, and he hasn't been in the gym. And that was his biggest thing, that he wasn't in the gym, okay? So now that he's back in the gym, he's a lot more healthier. But what is the one bugbear that you have potentially about rugby this week in South Africa?
What are we talking about, here? What's the problem? What is...
Mate, I don't need you to be negative anymore, okay? I don't want to hear it. Every time...
Mate, you're never going to live this down.
Every time you give me a negative comment, I'm going to put the mufflers on, okay?
Mate, you're going to have warm ears.
I'm going to put Pike's mufflers on because I
I
don't
love it,
want
mate.
to hear them.
Wad your
alright?
wabbit.
Hey? Wad your wabbit, okay? Nice mufflers. But I don't want any more negativity,
There's no
mate.
negativity, mate. I'm very excited about this weekend. I think the Boks are going to be doing great things. No, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, and we'll
Very
be
much
back.
so.
We'll be back tomorrow when we preview the Springboks against Argentina. We also preview the All Blacks against the Wallabies. But today really has been a celebration of Eben Etzebeth, 127 tests, equals Victor Matfield's record. And when you think about Boks Centurions, mate, there's no one bigger, better than Percy Montgomery. 893 points, 102 tests. First South African to play 100 tests for the Springboks. He ended with 102, a 63-8 win against 53-8 win against the Wallabies when he was carried off at Ellis Park. And I thought, you know what? Let me reach out to my mate Monty and get a little message from him on what makes Eben Etzebeth special. And let's see what Monty had to say.
Eben Etzebeth, the modern rugby player, putting his body on the line every week. An amazing career and still going strong and representing his country. Now overtaking the great Victor Matfield. Just keep going, your nation stands with you. Congratulations and ho, bien a ho. From Percy Montgomery.